Hey guys, Bazzy back here. And in today's video, we're going to be taking one more look at NHL 25. What an interesting year it has been. A lot of up and a lot of down with NHL 25. And I honestly don't really know where I stand on it at the moment. So today we're going to be going through each and every single mode that the game has to offer, taking a look at everything new that was added in, seeing what worked and what didn't. We have quite a bit to get into with today's video, so let's jump into it and let's start out with gameplay. So as you know, especially with gameplay, every single year EA tries to add in new features to keep gameplay feeling fresh. This year, gameplay's new creative changes came in the form of Ice Cube. So Ice Cube, what does that cover? It covers next-gen vision control, empowered AI, and reactive actions. So let's start out with the next-gen vision control. Basically just a fancy way of saying giving you more control over your players, making the skating animations, the puck carrying animations, holding the blue line, making it all feel a lot more natural. They put a clip up in the initial gameplay trailer of a comparison of Cale Makar walking the blue line in NHL 24 and compared it to NHL 25, and the differences are night and day. And you gotta give them credit where it's due. It actually looks a lot more like real hockey. And I think that is something that they did actually a pretty good job with in NHL 25. The gameplay is never going to be perfect, especially as we're watching AI versus AI footage right now. It's never going to look amazing, but I think there was a step up this year. And honestly, it's weird to say, but this is honestly one of the years that I've actually probably played the game the least myself. As much as I spend like a ton of time on NHL itself, a lot of that time is obviously spent in roster construction mode. So I didn't get to play a ton of the gameplay this year, but from the very, I guess, I want to say limited amounts that I actually got to jump into gameplay, I actually thought it was an improvement for sure over NHL 24. It didn't feel as blocky, as awkward in some scenarios. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. But I like that it did feel at least a little bit more natural. So let's move on from next-gen vision control and talk about empowered AI. So I don't even know why they bring this up every single year. Obviously, we know the AI in this game is awful. Whether you're watching an AI versus AI game like we're doing right now, or you're just looking at your AI teammates, I don't get why this is something they hype up every single year. I could not tell you a single difference in the AI from NHL 24 to 25. I couldn't even tell you a change from NHL 20 to NHL 25. Like, I don't know. That's something that's just always going to bother me, and I don't think it's something that we're ever going to really fully see changed, which is unfortunate. And it was one of those big three pillars of the new Ice Cube, and I definitely did feel like a bit of a miss for sure. I know it wasn't the main thing, but it was mentioned there in like the three larger pieces of it, so definitely a little bit of a miss. Moving on, let's talk to that final piece of Ice Cube, that being the reactive actions. And I actually think they did a pretty good job with this again, and it just kind of leads into almost like the next-gen vision control, just trying to replicate what you see on TV a little bit more. And honestly, this, I guess, kind of does go in hand with the AI, how they react to some stuff. Their positioning and everything's always going to be awful, as we know. But if you're going to actually deke out a player, sometimes you actually see those actions. And they showed that off in the trailer, and I think you actually did see that a little bit in gameplay. And honestly, sometimes it's just those small details, even if it really doesn't matter in the grand stage of things, just that you can kind of see and replicate what you're seeing in the real NHL. And you can do that in the video game. That's always a good thing. So even if it's just small stuff like that, I think it does definitely improve the overall quality of gameplay. And then the last thing here I really do have for gameplay, it's not really part of the Ice Cube package, but it's the skill-based one-timers. Not a fan. I don't think it was needed, to be honest. Like, this to me just brings that arcadey feeling that I don't think we really need. Like, there's a balance for sure. It's a video game, of course we want to have fun with it, but I don't think you need these big green cannon shots from the point, you know, every time you're trying to tee up a one-timer. And I think I saw a lot of, like, similar sentiment around the community, especially from the online player base. Like, I stayed away from HUD as, like, much as I ever have. but I saw a lot of complaints from that community where it's just like D to D one-timers, get that green skill-based one-timer from the point, and it would go in like every time. And yeah, I don't know. It just brings that arcadey element, which I don't really think was needed, so I don't know. But that's more or less everything that came for gameplay in NHL 25. Was there some good changes? Yeah, I think there actually was this year. Was it the main selling feature of NHL 25, like to bring in this whole new gameplay package and new features and abilities? No, I don't think so. I think that still goes to franchise mode, which we will get to. Definitely going to be going pretty deep into that in today's video. But I think gameplay actually was in a pretty good spot this year. They built on what they had, they put in some nice quality of life changes, and they gave more control to the player, which I think is what you want from gameplay in the NHL series. So let's move over from gameplay, and let's talk about all the new changes to presentation in NHL 25. I gotta say, presentation was a bit of a letdown this year. We didn't really see as many new features added as I think a lot of people would have wanted. Let's start out with some of the positives. Let's start out with the new score clock. You see it on screen right now. Vancouver, New Jersey. This is like a hugely immense improvement over what we had. I always hated seeing it on the bottom. Again, it looked so arcadey. It didn't really look like it fit to me. It really looked like you were just out of a sports video game rather than, again, trying to replicate the real NHL. And again, I guess it kind of depends on what kind of style you want to see, but I think this new and improved scoreboard, I guess that you can say that we got, looks a lot better in my opinion for sure. Definitely does need some improvements. Like I know in franchise mode, you can't actually see like the series of like playoff rounds that you're currently in. Apparently that might be changing going into NHL 26, at least of time of recording. It is not confirmed, but it has been teased by some developers. So we'll end up seeing what happens there. But yeah, first thing is the scoreboard, and honestly, not bad. I like how it looks. Let's move over to probably the biggest feature for presentation, that being the grudge matches. So now, prior to loading into games with a quote-unquote rival, you get a nice little grudge match intro. Shows off some of the players that may have had, impressive performances in games against each other's teams in the past. It also shows like the season series if you're in franchise mode. I was honestly impressed that they had this for online like Hockey Ultimate Team. If you have a player that you're playing against a certain amount of times and he keeps coming up in your online search, you will potentially have a grudge match intro. And that is really cool that it does keep some of those stats for some of those players and highlights them in this pre-game intro. So honestly, when it comes to grudge matches, I actually didn't see it as much as I thought I would. I didn't mind the addition of it. Again, it is a little bit more arcadey, but I like that it's actually tracking some of these stats, it's adding some of those storylines back in, and it's something that you don't actually have to keep track of yourself, which is very nice. So I just wish we would have actually seen it a little bit more, and I don't know, maybe that's just me. Maybe I didn't see it a ton because I wasn't jumping into a ton of games. So I actually would be interested to know if this is something you just didn't really see much, or if it was something you saw all the time. So definitely let me know in the comments below. So moving on from grudge matches, we saw a few select improvements to characters in NHL 25. And again, this is something that I think they do every single year for the most part, trying to improve on some of those character models, getting fresh scans of new players coming into the game. But I think for the most part, they actually, made players really come to life a little bit more than what we would have seen in other years. Like even looking at Brent Burns there, like you can easily tell that is Brent Burns. And especially with some of the physics that they put on the hair, I think it looks a little bit better. You see in the beard there on Burns, it looks good. They totally revamped all the hairstyles in the creation zone. This is something I noticed right away. Especially in the longer hairstyles. You really see it looks a lot more flowy. Some of the short ones, I honestly don't even know if they touched it or not. Like it looks like a very almost different art style kind of. But when you look at some of those longer flowing hairs, you can definitely see they did a bit of a rework for sure. So, small improvements, but again, something that they did change this past calendar year. The only other note I have here for presentation comes directly from EA, and that was improved jersey physics. So I know they showed off, I think it was Macklin Celebrini skating down the ice, and you could see his jersey kind of floating around a little bit more naturally as he skated. Like, again, that's something you're never gonna notice unless you really go into a replay and you're really looking for that stuff. Is it bad that they added that? No, absolutely not. Again, that's fine. That's for sure. That's okay. But it's just something that to most players, you're never going to really notice that at all. So when it comes to presentation this year, again, good changes, but I don't think it was as much as what the community wanted to see. And I think in some elements, they kind of went in a different direction from what the community wanted to see. A lot of people want that true NBC style real life sports broadcast feel back, and it seems like we're kind of going the opposite direction, really taking it in the form of, video game presentation, making it for kids, which I guess it depends what kind of demographic you're going for. If you're going for a younger audience, that might be the way to go, but if you're looking for the older hardcore player that really just wants to see like real life hockey, that might not be exactly the direction that we want to see going forward. So bit of a mixed bag for presentation this year. Some good changes, some stuff I didn't love. Hopefully it can continue to be improved upon for NHL 26. So let's move on from presentation. Let's go and talk about Hockey Ultimate Team. So very interesting year here for HUT. I don't know if it was a very good one, to be honest. So first off, we don't even have to move. It is the new Hockey Ultimate Team hub. And this is something, again, I was even asking for years. Redesign the hub. We've had the same thing from NHL 20 onward. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it currently, and maybe that makes me a bit of a hypocrite asking for all these changes, but I just don't love the feel of HUT this year. I don't know what it is. So it is different for sure. It just seems like there's so much going on. It's almost a little bit harder to pay attention to what you're trying to look for here, at least on this main screen. The other ones did stay pretty similar, but hey, we did finally get our new designed HUT hub. Also coming this year, and really the big change to Hockey Ultimate Team, was the new XP seasons. And this was something that almost killed Hockey Ultimate Team in Season 1. And honestly, I don't even know why. I think it was just because there wasn't enough rewards, there wasn't enough stuff to really earn in the XP path itself. Honestly, I don't even know what it was. I totally checked out of HUT this year. I just didn't have fun with it, and I tried to stay away from it as much as possible. In theory, the XP path is phenomenal, but from my knowledge, they took out all the awards from Rivals and Squad Battles and all these other different modes. I think they should have left those in and just had the XP path on top of that. That, I think, would have made a lot more sense, rather than just having everything go to the XP. I think that is a little bit of a letdown in my opinion. Again, maybe something that comes back, but they don't like to give out rewards, so I unfortunately doubt it. Well, let's move over to the new mode coming to Hockey Ultimate Team, that being Wildcard. And surprise, surprise, I did not play one game of Wildcard this year. I think a lot of the community was hoping for a similar mode to Draft Champs. And that was in some of the older NHL games going back to NHL 20, NHL 19. And I think it took elements from that, but I don't think it was obviously a perfect one-to-one match to what the community may have wanted from this mode. But as it says there, draft a team, play your way, earn instant rewards. I think that's what people want to see for the most part. It gave an option for offline and online players. That's the issue a lot of the time with HUT, is it just caters to the online community. So it was good to see that come to offline and online players this year. So moving on from HUT Wildcard, let's go and talk about something that, again, made me a little bit frustrated, and I don't get the change. That being X Factors. X Factors this year are more or less totally useless. If you go and look at the X Factors here, obviously you have your supercharged players like Connor McDavid, but you have X Factors like Nico Hischier who couldn't be upgraded at all. Before, in previous games, any X Factor gets upgraded to match their highest overall card. So some of these are just totally useless. Obviously you have guys like McDavid that can get up there, and he does have those free ability point players, which I believe McDavid was, which is something, again, we saw, which is new and was nice. And you can see you can upgrade this card, you couldn't upgrade the previous one. So what's the difference? And why is he only at a 97? Again, time of recording, he could very well be a 99 by the time this goes out. But why is he at a 97 in August? That makes no sense. I don't know what they did to X Factors this year. Same thing goes with power-up icons, to my knowledge. They just made all these cards totally useless, where in previous years, they were some of the best cards in the game. I think this went with, like, Team of the Year, Team of the Season. I think it was kind of the same thing all the way through. But they had various different seasons. The overalls did go up as the seasons went on, which was nice to see. They also did have a total PWHL season for X Factors, which again is great to see. Have all those players added into Hockey Ultimate Team. But yeah, just overall, X Factors. I don't know what they did. Just feels like, again, a missed opportunity. I didn't mind how they were in previous years, and they chose to go a different direction. Definitely not the direction I would have gone, but I'm also probably not the demographic of player that they're really all that much caring about, let's just say. So let's move over from X Factors. Let's move over to the exchange sets. And again, another weird choice. They totally nerfed the gold rerolls. Before you could do like 2 gold players, and then you got like a gold rare player, and then you could do a certain amount of 80 overall pluses, and I don't even remember what it was, but it was a lot better than what we currently have. Now you have to give up like 2 92 overalls to get a 94 to a 95. Like, they locked what you can actually get. You just no longer have the chance of pulling something like fantastic out of nowhere, which again is a shame. Like, we had it good for so many years. Why would you change this? Another one of those things. It's just, why? And I don't think we ever really got an answer to it. So another weird choice there from Hockey Ultimate Team this year. Let's move over to something that was actually positive that they added in. I think it's under collections here. Let me scroll all the way to the end, and that would be arenas. Yeah, there it is. So they actually added in the ability you could play with outdoor arenas in Hockey Ultimate Team for the first time. And we've had these in the game for years. They were always in, I believe it was World of Chell, they were in Hot Rush for a period of time, and it made no sense why we couldn't just have these as our home arena. So they finally added it. It's great. I want to see these like ported over to franchise mode. May as well, like, just having fun offline, why not? But it was good to finally see these added in. I know people were complaining about like different lights and stuff like that, seeing the puck on the ice in certain rings, but I don't know, whatever. It was really cool to actually see those added in, and that's actually a good change with Hockey Ultimate Team, in my opinion, this year. And then the last thing that I have found that they changed in Hockey Ultimate Team is actually another positive one. Let's go over to Hut Rivals, and they finally, after asking for years and years, added in leaderboards. This is one of those things that players were asking for so long, so it was good to finally see them finally get added in. Shout out to Henrique there. But yeah, people have been asking for a long time to finally have leaderboards come back. I don't even know when the last time they would have been in. I know they were in, again, years upon years ago. Took them out, finally came back in NHL 25. Helps track your stats. Again, it's something you don't have to do. Now the game does it for you. So Hockey Ultimate Team this year, step back for sure. I didn't even mention what they did to the economy at the start of the year. And that was why I stopped playing like instantly. I did one big pack opening to start out NHL 25, and I'm pulling like all silver players, and they're all worth like 6,000. I was like, what the heck is going on? And in every single pack, at least at the start of the year, I don't know if it's still the same, you got like 2 to 3 players. It felt like you're just not getting anything for the money you're spending, and that, which is frustrating for sure. And I've seen a lot of similar complaints from the community. A lot of content creators were not happy with the way Hockey Ultimate Team was run this year as well. There was just a ton of even overuse of alumni for cards. Like, you would see those over current players and current moments going on in the NHL this year. And there was just a lot of missed opportunities for sure. So hopefully, moving into NHL 26, we can kind of see a rebound for Hut to get it back to where it was. Let's move over from Hockey Ultimate Team to the one I know you've been waiting for, that being franchise mode. So for the first time and forever, this was the first year that franchise mode got all the real love of an NHL game. I don't even know when the last time that would have been that franchise mode got all this attention. Starting things out, the new hub for franchise mode, I absolutely love what they did. You can see the standings, you can see your leading scorers, you can see the leading scorers around the league, the projected starting goalies, all right in front of you. You don't even have to go to any other screens. It's right there. It looks great. It's clean. It's not too much information in my opinion. I think they actually did a phenomenal job with the overall graphic design, the logo in behind, the smoke texture on there. I think everything looks really, really good in the overall design choice that they went for with franchise mode. I like this hub a lot more than what they did with HUD, let's just say that. Moving over from the overall design choice, let's go to our first real feature, that being the addition of box scores. So this is something that almost every single other sport game has. I can't even think of another one that actually doesn't have box scores. Now you can go back and see any single game in the entire NHL after you have simmed by it. Whether that be your game or another team's game, it doesn't matter. You can see all the players scoring, you can see the 3 stars of the game, you can see the opponent's scores, your scores. I thought it would just be for your team if they ever added it, but to be able to even go see this Toronto-Boston game, Charlie McAvoy puts up 2 goals, 2 hits, like that's really cool, and they actually went full out with this. And it's not even just for the NHL. You can sort of buy the different divisions, but you can also sort of buy AHL. I actually don't even know if I really even knew this was a thing, to be honest, because you never really look for it. But hey, good on them for adding AHL and NHL. Just gives more freedom to the player, which is something that we always want. So for moving to box scores, let's stay with the stats kind of theme here. Let's go to a player, let's go to Frank Vatrano. So before you could just see his overall career stats, you could see what he's doing in the current season. Now you can look at that game by game. So since box scores was added in, they added that extra tracking. Now you can see every single player and what he did under his own player card in particular games. I would have never known he had a 5-point night there against Vegas. That's something that, again, it just adds to those storylines. It just makes it fun to track in franchise mode, and you can really see what a player's doing in certain games. But they didn't even just stop there. You can even see home and away, then the division, East versus West, and then again, you can see against every single team. If you're playing multiple games, like 2 games there against San Jose, you can see his total in those 2 games. It's one of those things, you gotta give them credit. They actually did go above and beyond in this feature. I thought if they ever did box scores, they would maybe do, you know, the different games for players, but I didn't think they would do the full-on split stats there, and it's really cool to see. Moving over from all the statistics, let's go over to awards. Now, you don't have to track anything when it comes to awards. It is all done under the player card. You can see awards that a player had won previous to NHL 25. You see Ovi's Cup from 17-18. You see his Calder Trophy that he previously won, plus anything that he wins later on into franchise mode gets added to his player card, making it easy to track, so when he does eventually retire, he'll get a full career total of everything he has won. Again, a small feature, but something that just a very nice quality of life change. Moving from that, we have the addition of the no movement clauses. This again is something they went above and beyond with. I thought initially, if they ever were going to add these clauses in, I thought it would be as simple as no move or no move. I didn't think they would have all these modified clauses to be able to pick different amounts of teams. They actually did go full out with it, and it worked as it should. That was kind of the issue with franchise mode this year. They added in a ton of things, which were great to see, but not everything worked perfectly. We will get to that. But when it came to contract clauses, I think everything was actually really good. I didn't have any issues myself when it came to that, so I don't know, maybe that's just me. But let's, look at some of these different player clauses. Granlund is a bad example there. Look at Clayton Keller here. So he's on our team. It gives a full list there of 17 teams he's eligible to be traded to. Easy to understand, right in front of you. And again, you just gotta give them props when they do something right, because it's not all the time that happens. But when it comes to the no movement clauses, no trade clauses, everything regarding that, I think they did a pretty good job this year. So hey, let's move over from clauses. Let's go and take a look at contract negotiations. So this was something that I still have mixed feelings with. So now obviously you have the organizational interest bar there, and that kind of dictated the whole contract negotiations as a whole. So I think we all know this screen. We've seen it forever. You had the amount of money, you have the years, the contract type. They added in, obviously, the contract clause this year. And that was more or less all you could do when it came to player negotiations. So if I want to go here and just offer like crazy amounts of money, you'll see the bar is going up and down. Now, with NHL 25, they added in that entirely new conversation system. So by hitting Y, you start your negotiation, and it goes a little bit more in depth. So we tried to charm them there. Unfortunately, it did fail. You can talk about your organization. You can talk about the market. Try to persuade players. So it adds a new level of depth into contract negotiations. I found this was where it was a little bit buggy. This is where it took almost a little bit too much time in some cases, and it didn't always work as it should. I'm still a little bit mixed on how they added this in this year. One thing I'll say about franchise mode, I'm sure I'll mention it again, it felt like some elements maybe could have been held back a year, really been tested when it came to bugs and glitches and stuff like that to really make sure it was hammered out and ready to go. I don't know if all these conversations were from day one. So, just another way of going in, offering players deals. So another thing that was actually new this year when it came to contract negotiations was the ability to instantly sign players. So if we go here to Alex Radulov, let's just go and overpay him like crazy. The organizational bar is full. He accepts right away. So now no more dancing around with players, having them wait, 4 to 5 days, waiting for an answer. If the contract is good enough for a player to accept and they're happy with it, boom, it's done right away. This year also, I don't even know if I can do it at this point. I think it's only the off season, but you can table contract offers. So if you're trying to make up your mind between two players, table it on one of them, see what the first player says, and then come back to them at a later date. Another one of those things that's small, but it's a nice feature to have in the game. But let's move over from conversations regarding contracts to just general player conversations. And this had me very, very worried when we got our first look at the deep dive for franchise mode. I thought this was going to overtake the mode itself. It was going to kind of ruin franchise mode. You're going to have players coming and talking to you every single day. It's going to slow everything down, but they weren't mandatory at all, which is good. I think they probably should have communicated that a little bit more, in my opinion. But honestly, player conversations this year, it is very similar to how I feel about contract negotiations. They were good. They had some positive things to them, we'll jump in here and maybe let's not go to Troy Terry since he's injured. Let's go to just Jackson Lacombe here. So one of the best elements with player conversations, if we go to on-ice play, you can change the scheme fit for players. So before, if you had a coach that didn't add up with a player, you would always had bad chemistry on that team. Now you can try and change the scheme fit for a player and have them fit on different lines. That's a huge win. That was something that I think that even came a little bit later in the year. I think that was patched in at some point. And that was huge. That's a great use of conversations, and I love it. Some of the other things when it came to switching positions, switching player types, I think for the most part it kind of missed. So let's try and change Lacombe's position here. Wow, actually, success. I don't think I've really ever seen that. Let's try and make him a center. And there you go, fail. I just don't think a lot of this was needed. You could also put out challenges and try and have players win awards. We're currently midway through the season, so unfortunately I can't do that at the moment. But I think you kind of get the general direction they were going with conversations. Wasn't my favorite thing that they added in. I don't know. It wasn't the biggest deal at the end of the day as well. Another huge positive that we saw this year in franchise mode was the addition of real coaches to the mode. So this happened, I want to say it was November. It was a post-launch DLC update. All of a sudden, all 32 NHL teams have their official head coaches represented in-game. This was amazing. The issue was none of them worked with custom rosters, so everything had to be redone. Beside that, it was really cool to see all these coaches added into the game. A few things that, again, I wasn't the biggest fan of. Why are they all A-rated? I get you don't want to offend the coaches, but if everyone's an A, nobody's an A. so I don't think that really worked out in the long run. And also, you couldn't move these coaches around freely, like when it comes to roster management. So in our custom roster, you still had Jim Montgomery as the Bruins coach at the end of season, just because it didn't have that flexibility to move coaches around. But nonetheless, it was cool to see them added in-game, something that was very unexpected, just all of a sudden kind of dropped one day. And hey, I'll take those changes every single day of the week. And then last change, at least in the mode itself, was the ability to lock lines in franchise mode by talking to your coach. So now if you go to preferred lines, this was something that was more or less tried to help out with injuries and not messing up your lines every time someone went down. So if we want to go first line center, who do we want to throw in there? Just throw someone that wouldn't be there in any regard. So Jansen Harkins, you're going to be the new first line center of the Anaheim Ducks. Confirm that in there with Greg Cronin, and then I'll show you once we get to the edit line screen. So now you'll see that Jansen Harkins is our first line center. You can move him down to third line. As long as you go head coach preferred lines, it will always lock in that player in that certain position. Honestly, something I totally forgot they even added, but something that I honestly do kind of want to use a little bit more heading into NHL 26. And also added, not particular for franchise mode, but it is very relevant, and that being the ability to finally move draft picks freely. So it didn't matter what team you had, you can fully trade first, second, thirds, whatever you want to other teams prior to entering franchise mode. So this was something that was obviously huge for the custom roster scene. Before, we'd have to merge rosters with EA, basically meaning you have to redo all your edits just to get the correct draft picks on certain teams. Now you can just go and move the draft picks freely, which, again, absolute huge win in my opinion. And this is really what I want to see as a similar format when it comes to head coaches, hopefully as soon as next year. And then obviously once you jump into franchise mode, you'll see there all those picks that we moved over to Boston are represented as they should be. So franchise mode this year. Honestly, again, I'm mixed on it. They added so many good improvements and so many things that we've been asking for like so many years. I said this in the evolution of franchise mode video that I put out a couple of weeks ago. So many good changes, just so many bugs and glitches. This mode ran so slow. The menus are so laggy. It made it hard to play in that regard. I didn't play as much offline franchise mode as I had in previous years, just due to some of those issues. And I don't think it's stuff that really would take that much time to improve upon. So hopefully, fingers crossed, NHL 26 also add in some nice quality of life improvements, additional to what we got this year, fix everything that was broken, and I think we can have the ultimate franchise mode experience, hopefully for NHL 26. I do have a few extras here just that didn't fit in any of the other previous categories. Obviously this year we had the addition of the PWHL, which again was huge. All of a sudden, just out of the blue, they announced that this would be coming in a DLC later in the year. You can control any of these 6 original PWHL franchises now in NHL 25. Whether it be couch co-op, whether it be season mode, whether it be the players officially added into Hockey Ultimate Team, it was great to see the rights finally get added into the NHL games. The only issue was that they didn't add it directly into franchise mode. Like I said, they had season mode, but once that season is over, that's more or less the end of the mode, and it kind of gets a little bit tiresome continually replaying that first season. I'm sure it's something that's on their wish list of expanding upon that and making it, again, a full franchise mode experience. Hopefully that's something that can be built upon in the next few years. One thing with the PWHL, which was really nice, they actually added in all the official rules. And that was something that was found out later with HUD arenas. Even if you assigned one of those arenas as your home arena, you got to use all the special PWHL rules, which was a very nice touch. So good step here, adding them to the game. Let's hope it is continued to be improved upon and built out in future years. Also added in post-launch DLC was the Four Nations Face-Off Tournament. So obviously we all know the crazy success which was the Four Nations this year. Fantastic hockey, some of the most exciting entertainment I've seen in a very long time. and it was a fantastic tournament run by the NHL. So now you can use all the 4 official teams, whether it be jerseys, branding, logos, everything. You can now replicate this tournament yourself in NHL 25. Hopefully, with NHL 26 coming up, maybe somehow they get the rights to the Olympics. Again, I know that's a totally different issue, but maybe it's something that they can work with and add in for NHL 26. And the last real thing I have to talk about here today is a small one, but it was actually a very cool and very unexpected thing to be added. That being the goalie masks made on iPad. Again, this was something that just dropped totally out of the blue. Masks for Markstrom, Woll, Ullmark, Skinner, Montembeault, Demko. Like just 7 random goalies randomly received their official goalie mask in-game. Hopefully this is something that was a bit of a tease. Maybe in NHL 26, at least all the starters get their official mask. I know it's tough when it comes to the actual trademarks, the branding, if they have, material from other franchises on their mask, like when it comes to other media. I know you have to go through the whole branding and copyright when it comes to all that, so definitely won't be that easy, but it was cool to see at least that authenticity come to a select few goalies. And there you have it. I look back on the year that was NHL 25. Honestly, a surprising amount of changes and improvements added in to the game this year. And a lot of really good changes, especially for modes like franchise mode, which for myself and I think a lot of viewers of this channel would be the main mode. And overall, did I have fun with NHL 25? I think that's probably the main question you're asking yourself. I think I did. I think for the most part I did. This year, again, was probably the least amount I really got to play the game, and that was just because of the amount of content I was creating. That was the roster construction itself, trying to take everything up to the next level and trying to continue to build upon that, so that's kind of on myself, but it was very much the least amount of gameplay I played in a year, and it was the least amount of franchise mode, Hockey Ultimate Team I played in a year as well. So in that regard, it was tough, but I still had a lot of fun with NHL 25. NHL 26 is going to be interesting. Again, changes coming to the game. It might not be in the areas I'm looking for. Who knows? We'll have to see. Game launches in just about a week's time. Very excited to start this journey again with a new game, and hopefully we can have another phenomenal year. So there you go. One more look at NHL 25. Let me know, what do you guys think as a whole? Did you like NHL 25? What did you think of NHL 25 compared to NHL 24 or NHL 23, any of the games that came before? When it comes to looking at that myself, I actually liked NHL 24 a decent amount. NHL 23 I hated. That's a different story for another day. But I'd say NHL 25 is a pretty good improvement. I don't know, that's just me. Definitely leave it in the comments down below if you agree with it and just overall what you thought of this last year. So that is going to do it for today's video, and we'll see you all in the next one.